Hello there people, and welcome back to another video. In this one I'm going to be looking at a channel called Chiza Z, and the title is Women Marrying Women, Worst Divorce Rates Ever, and that the lesbian divorce rate is 70%. So I think now, I've got a lot of experience in life with women, and obviously there is just an ocean of evidence. You just have to look at some videos and your jaw will drop at just how crazy women are and how just delusional they are. And really, we're witnessing a world that's straying further and further from masculine frame and logic, and we are somehow for a long time been accepting more and more feminine led mindset and agendas. And I think now we can evidently say that women are the problem when it comes to dating. Okay, I'm not saying 100%, but I think the big problem is women. Because you have to remember 80%, maybe even 90% of men are completely invisible to women because they're too busy chasing the millionaires and the jets and the boats and the yachts and the holidays in Dubai and the men that can give them this fantasy, delusional lifestyle. They don't want a boring moment in their life. It all has to be adventure and excitement, and you have to make six figures. You know the nonsense. So this is what we're seeing, and there's a lot of guys, good guys, that are just left to realistically be invisible and do their own thing. And I think the problem is we're seeing is that there's that many men who are being affected by this, that there's a collective movement of an awakening and saying, wait a minute, this isn't acceptable, and we're starting to see that. So let's just watch this video, and it explains to you that realistically, when you've got emotion running a world, it's just going to be chaos. Granted that when logic or men run the world, there can still be chaos, but fundamentally men are not perfect and neither are women, but women operate in emotions and men operate in logic. Yeah, so that's why we need to get back to a more logical world. So let's watch the video and you'll see just why women are the problem, because it explains here that 40%, I think it's heterosexual relationships. This woman goes on to say heterosexual relationships, the divorce rate is 40%. Gay men gay men marriage, the divorce rate is 30%. So that's lower than heterosexual, okay? But female lesbian marriage is 70%. And also there's stats showing that, I think, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that lesbian marriage in relationships is the highest for like abuse and physical violence. So let's just watch the video and it'll kind of show you what I'm saying.
The divorce rate among straight couples is about 40 to 50%. Among gay couples, men and men, it's about 30%. Among lesbian couples, it's about 70%. Now, if we're saying that men are the problem in relationships, why is the divorce rate among women much higher than men and women and men?
Ooh, hold on. You may have missed it. Pay attention. One more time.
Divorce rate among straight couples is about 40 to 50%. Among gay couples, men and men, it's about 30%. Among lesbian couples, it's about 70%. Now, if we're saying that men are the problem in relationships, why is the divorce rate among women much higher than men and women and men? Now we know.
So 70% is a very high divorce rate. That is obscene. That is telling you that that is not working. That is not a system that will ever work. You know, and realistically, I don't see it getting any better. I just see it getting worse. Why? Because emotion plus emotion equals insanity. So even if you've got a woman who thinks she's a man, fundamentally she's a woman. She's programmed fundamentally to function like a woman. And this is what we're seeing, that women are chaos.
Women initiate divorces more, so that's what they're saying is the reason why the divorce rate among women is so high. But again, if men are the problem, why is the divorce rate that much higher?
Where are all the good men? Where are all the good men? What about where are all the good women? And look, the bottom line is, when women are saying where are all the good men, they're really saying where are all the rich alpha chads who can blow my back out and just be this perfect delusional unicorn that I've got in my mind, you know. So there is plenty of real men, it's just that there's no fantasy, there's not enough fantasy delusional men that fit women's requirements, you know. So it's like, it's women, where are all the real women? That's the real question. Not where are all the real men, where are all the real good, genuine women? Because they seem to be becoming a unicorn at this point.
Among women and women. What do you guys think?
What do they think? You know what they think? They think that they don't have to answer this question, because I barely see chicks here in the comment section. Isn't it always strange how when a real conversation like this happens, they're nowhere to be found?
Yeah, and where are all the real women who can take accountability for their actions? There's a real question for you. Ask yourself this as a man. How many times have you heard a woman saying, I'm sorry, it was my fault, I was wrong? Or do women just take you around in endless loops of insanity and delusion to basically avoid any accountability?
The modern chicks, if you see videos talking about the decline in marriage rates, and you have these chicks talking about they're opting out of marriage, the narrative a lot of the times from modern women's perspectives is, hey, men aren't kind, they don't know how to have healthy relationships, and we would rather be single, build these communities of women. You guys have heard this. They want to build communities of women because we can get along a lot better without men. But these studies disprove all that. This isn't the first.
So there you go. And I mean, I think we can all agree at this point that I don't think a world full of women would end well. Because women need a masculine frame to keep them from being insane. And this is why I believe that we're seeing so many insane, batshit insane women, because they reject men. They do not accept a man's frame because they think that they're better, or equal at best, equal at least, and better. This is what we're seeing through the feminist movement. The feminist movement has fundamentally destroyed the harmony between men and women, and all it's done is create a divide, and it's made women more insane because they are straying from the masculine frame and the masculine lead. And when a woman is left to her own devices, chaos will guaranteed ensue.
First time we've heard studies like this that talk about the negatives of same-sex women, female couples. They also have a high rate of DV cases. What about that? That's what the people have to say. Top comment here says 2 words, Nora Vincent. Go look her up. I think this was the woman who tried to become a man, if I'm not mistaken. And she ended up deleting herself because of.
Yeah, so the women think that men have got it easy and life's so hard for women, and that men don't do nothing, and men, you know, life's just, you know, so easy for men, and women basically don't respect men. And this just show you how hard it is to actually be a man. Okay, this is a woman who tried to be a man, she tried to actively live her life as a man, and she ended up deleting herself. Yeah?
Of how lonely she said she felt. Yeah. Yep. This was her. I don't know, let's play a video by her. Why not? Why not? We're already this deep. Here we go.
Because we don't have testosterone in our systems, we don't understand how hard it is.
Throughout the project, Ned dabbled in the art of picking up a woman.
Where'd your friend go?
We went with him to this bar wearing hidden cameras.
It's my friend JC, I'm Ned.
Nora was reminded that in this arena, it's women who have all the power.
We sit there and we just with one word, no, will crush someone. And the thing is, we don't have to do the part where you cross the room, and you go up to a stranger and say the first words. And those first words are so hard to say without sounding like a cheese ball or sounding like a jerk or whatever else.
Barbara was trying to dispose of Ned before her friend returned from the bathroom. Nora, as Ned, also went on about 30 dates with women, mostly arranging them on the internet.
So this woman who transitioned into a man went on these different dates and talked about how difficult it was. Now, a lot of people are saying, hey, they could probably tell, so on and so forth, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure to some women, they probably just said, oh, I'm just going to assume that this is probably a dude, right?
Do you have any fun?
Rarely.
She says the pressure of Ned having to prove himself was grueling.
My prejudice was that the ideal man is a woman in a man's body. And there are a lot of women out there who really want a manly man.
Nora thought the perfect end to her 18-month saga was to join a men-only therapy group.
They don't get to show the weakness. They don't get to show the affection, especially with each other. And so often all of their emotions are shown in rage.
Nora began to empathize with the fear and stress men feel for having to always be the strong provider. In the final ritual of the weekend, the men were to act out the problems unearthed at the retreat with a partner.
And you asked that he harm you.
Yeah, I did. At that point, I was starting to really kind of crack up. I was really...
You were asking this guy to cut
me. So
Wait, what? Why?
self-mutilation is very much a female thing, and I think it was my way of paying the penalty.
Nora was not harmed physically, but she continued her emotional descent, and a week later checked into a hospital with severe depression. Identity, she concluded, was not something to play around with.
When you mess around with that, you really mess around with something that you need that helps you to function. And I found out that gender lives in your brain, and I really learned that the hard way.
But her views about men have changed forever.
Men are suffering. They have different problems than women have, but they...
I know this isn't supposed to be funny, but to any man who's watching this, to see a chick think, okay, the perfect man is a woman who is in a male body, and then get proven wrong, because you would think that, hey, you would know how to handle the male experience. It must be so great, only to find out that men are going through moments of loneliness and they have to prove themselves. And this is kind of humorous because...
And although he's saying that, right, and he's just showing you, highlighting how stupid that kind of mindset is, you have to also understand that this is why the deletion rate, you know, the self-offing rate amongst men is so high. It's not just that this woman is a one-off and whatever. You know, it's the reality of a man's life is a lonely, hard, grueling, strenuous, sort of a forever with the weight on your shoulders. It's a path that is not easy, and it can be lonely at times, it can be really stressful at times, and you are the one that is leading, and you're also competing amongst other men as well. And women in this modern time are just completely disrespecting men, and I think that the bottom line is that we can now see, even although this can be anecdotal, that this is maybe a reason why, and this is a woman giving you an insight into what it's like living like a man, as to why that the self-deletion rate of men is so high, because it is not easy. You know, the stress of the world is on men, and it's our duty to make it easier for women. And now that we've done that, women are throwing it back in our faces and just completely abusing the system that we created to protect them, you know, and using it against us, really, and abusing it.
It proves that what you hear over and over again is so wrong.
They don't have it better. They need our sympathy, they need our love, and they need each other more than anything else. They need to be together.
Do you think women understand what it's like?
And that's the other thing. Men are taught that you can't show weakness. You've got to be stoic. You've got to be strong. You've got to keep it together. There's a stigma where we can't talk about our emotions. And believe you me, it is not easy being a man. At a certain point, you break through it and you know, you become numb to it, and you get a certain level of mental frame where you just like, I have to just deal with this, and that's it. But it doesn't mean it's easy. You know, it's a whole different ball game to a woman's life. A whole different ball game.
Be a man?
Not at all. No clue. No idea.
The irony is not lost on Nora that it took a trip into manhood to help her appreciate her own femininity.
I'm so much closer to myself than I ever was, that I really like me. I really like being me, and I really like being a woman.
She ended up killing herself after like a year and a half of this because she said she was treated so horribly by women that she couldn't even believe that this is how men lived. And I was like, no fucking way. But I can see it. I can see that you guys don't speak up. You don't say the things that we need to hear because you want to love us. You want to support us. You want to be there for us. But you guys are supposed to be. You're supposed to be the strong one. Yeah. You're supposed to be these things. And yet we've been fighting to be your equal, fighting to be the alpha, fighting to be, and out of kindness, you guys are stepping back, but it's a losing war for both of us.
Listen, I wasn't expecting to go into a deep documentary on this. This isn't the first time I've actually talked about this, but I wasn't expecting this. Saying that she couldn't handle how badly she was treated by women and offing herself from that experience. There's a lot of layers there, a lot of deepness. Top comment says, Nora, R.I.P. Nora, the only woman who fully understood us. Somebody else here says, understood so much she couldn't handle it. Here's somebody else says, there's so much education here, and I'm here for it. Another person who says, she went out like one of us. Here's somebody else who says, this woman is a hero. To all men, my heart goes out to her family and loved ones. I wonder how much more men, because here's what I think happens. In many cases, I've seen chicks who, you know, the transitioners who transition and they're women, and they usually stay within the same community. They usually keep the same communities around them. I don't think they simply just surround themselves in communities where they just are fully men, you know, and you can pretend, you can get close, but you can never truly understand what it's like to be a man for real, because you're not one. And the closest one that probably got to that was probably chicks like this who could change the outside appearance to the best of their abilities. And I did see a recent video. I saw a recent video of someone who got, here, I'm going to show you this video. Now, this right here, wait till you guys see this. This right here is probably the most manly transition I've seen in my life. Let me see. Damn. Okay. I can't seem to find it. Where is that video? All right. I can't seem to find it. Okay. Let's check out some of these comments. So this comment here says, because who is going to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong in a lesbian relationship? Somebody else here added, logic plus emotion equals 50%. Logic plus logic equals 30%. Emotion plus emotion equals 70%. Here's another person who says, apparently the abuse stat is similar. Somebody else here added, as a married lesbian, I would say women are probably more likely to let it end. Divorce isn't always a failure. Sometimes things just don't work out. Okay, perfect example here. Perfect example is once you prove something that, like, hey, maybe modern women and the feminist mindset is the more difficult party within a marriage, they now want to change the rules of the game, right? How do you measure a successful marriage? They really truly, you could say a successful marriage is one that has God in the center. Well, not everybody, necessarily believes in the same God. Okay. The only measurable way, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this, the only measurable way to determine whether a marriage is successful or not from a macro perspective, when they do stats, guys, follow me here, is did you get divorced or did you not? Right? There are no stats for are you happy? Because it depends on when you ask that couple whether they're happy or not. There are no stats for do you feel fulfilled or are you good parents? Right? That will be a difficult thing to measure. And so here I'm saying that's the measurement is divorces. And that's how everybody approaches this conversation. That's how you judge the performance of children long term that come from broken households versus households that stay together. They stay in fights, no matter what that takes, as long as no one's getting severely abused in that situation. Those children have a larger chance of being successful in society. But what do we see? Back to this comment. We see that when a stat is proven, now they want to change the name of the game. Divorce doesn't always mean failure. It's like, no. We're talking about divorce, a failed marriage, versus one where people decided to keep going, working through it, and both said, hey, I want to stay in this. I want to keep fighting. I think we can keep going with this. Guys, of course, I'm curious to know, what do you think? Comment down below.
Yeah, so I think that video kind of it's just like I said, it's just a little example of why is it that gay men marriages are 30%, round about 30% divorce. So 2 men getting married, the divorce rate is 30%, but 2 women being married, the divorce rate is 70%. That kind of tells a picture there, right? That gives you a pointer. Maybe women are the problem, right? When we're actually not just sitting talking about opinions and you said, he said, she said, blah, 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 blah. When we're actually looking like this guy said, who got divorced, what groups, let's look at it. And that's it. And that's what we're seeing. And evidently, even women, when you put women together, you couple them, they're even worse. That's the reality of what we're seeing. So the modern woman, in my opinion, is a lack of accountability, a lack of self-reflection, and fundamentally the feminist movement, which is basically to reject the masculine frame and to try this whole new genre, this whole new different changing the wheel scenario, where they're trying to basically build a square wheel rather than just use the circle wheel. Like, this system is insane, and women are rejecting masculine frame. That's why they're all crazy. That's why they're all washed up and drinking wine and surrounded by cats and hating men, because they hated men from the offset. They've never really gave men a true chance or really respected men. So I'm not saying men are perfect, but I believe a lot of the blame is on women. And that's my opinion. You can agree, you can disagree, that's fine. Let's have a look at some comments. Yeah, look. Emotional plus emotional equals disaster. Women have never liked each other. They play that fake sisterhood mess. They initiated knows better. Yeah, so an example of that is where maybe a fat chick who's ugly puts on a bit of makeup and she's filtered to the max, puts up a picture, and chicks are like, oh, so gorgeous, queen, and oh, you look fabulous. You know what I'm talking about. Women are so fake. You know, they're so fake. It's unbelievable. And then women understand women and they hate each other. 2 women married is like a race to the divorce attorney office. Loyalty is a big deal for men. Yep, and that's lacking as well, loyalty. That woman acted like a man. She seen how hard it was, and yep, unalived herself. I've been telling folks for years that these girls don't really like each other. Bruh, it's way more than 70%, let's be real. The stats being presented in real time, they just being nice. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Of 2 scissors, if 2 scissors go on a dinner date, the check magically disappears into oblivion. Yeah, so like, the bottom line is, guys, the evidence is there, and nobody will change my opinion at this point that women are the problem. Men are not perfect, but let's just say men are 30% of the problem and women are 70%. Let's just say it that way. Women are still need to come in line. Okay? Women are need to still alter, but they're not willing to. So it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And like I said, I do believe that the whole feminist movement has definitely caused a big divide between men and women, and it's made women even more delusional, and it's made men even more aware of just how delusional women are. So when you've got that situation, women are delusional and they hate men, and men are becoming more aware of it, it's not going to get better until women start respecting men again and coming back into a masculine frame, and women stop expecting that every woman can marry the richest man in the world and the best looking man in the world. It's like women need to realise, right, and men need to realise that a fundamental reason why you should be with somebody in a relationship is because you're attracted to them and you can form a bond. You genuinely like that person. Doesn't matter what planet you're on, how much money there is, what the environment is. It all comes down to true love as you fall for that person for who they are, as them, as they come. Not how much money have you got. I want this, I want that. You've got to be 6'2" and have hundreds of thousands of pounds, or be a millionaire. That's not love. That's basically prostitution. That's selling your body. That's looking for business, you know. And once women actually, you know, realise this, oh wait a minute, maybe chasing money and leading for money is never going to find me true love, then things might change. There's so many problems, you know, lack of respect. Women just look at men as like a ATM. We live in a time where it's never been easier for women to get a constant rotation of men, you know. We all know there's a lot of guys who are ignored. They're all filled with testosterone, and women use and abuse them men, in my opinion. They use the quote-unquote simps for attention, money, whatever it is they want to extort from them. But women, in my opinion, in this day and age, are not looking for real love. Men are, and I'll say it and I stand by it, that most men look for love, and most women look for business, transaction, you know, resources. That's not how a true relationship is meant to be. That's it. So until the next time, take it easy and